Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This virtual roundtable hearing is now called to order. And today's date is Thursday, February 10th, 2022, and the time now is exactly 2 p.m. The Committee on Public Safety, Emergency Response, Military and Veterans Affairs, Mayor's Council of Guam, and Public Transit is now conducting a virtual roundtable hearing today for the Mayor's Council of Guam on villages operation, maintenance, beautification, and public safety programs. For the record, in conformance with Section 8107 of Chapter 8, Title 5 GCA, the first roundtable hearing notice was sent out on Thursday, February 3rd, 2022, to adhere to the 5 working days requirement. And the second roundtable hearing adhering to the 48 hours notice was sent out on Tuesday, February 8th, 2022, and in addition to these notices, it was also sent out to the media and posted on the Guam Legislature's website. And I would like to thank all my colleagues and those in attendance for this public hearing. Just to set the rules, I want to also alert everybody that we're going to have like a 10-minute maximum to each speaker to make the presentation. And at this point in time, I would like to get the executive director of the Mayor's Council to give the opening remarks. And then we'll go with the Mayor Malesso, Mr. Mayor Ernest Chagla. So, Angel, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Of course, we're here at this virtual roundtable meeting at the request of Mayor Ernest Chagla, and it has to do with the distribution of our budget allocation for all of the 19 villages. As you're aware, the 36 Guam Legislature passed Budget Bill 3654, and in that allocation, there was an appropriation for the WAMP's funding, which actually combined the street maintenance, the island-wide beautification, and the public safety and social education programs into one. Now, back in October, when that allocation had to be approved by the council, there was a question by Mayor Ernest as to why the 11 years of previous legislatures all of a sudden change the formula and did not include the public safety and social education programs of $15,000 per village, as was in previous legislatures. He had asked me at that time to submit something to the legislature requesting an amendment or a change to the VOM's formula distribution, because he felt that it could have been an oversight by the Guam legislature. But at that time also, he was only one person. It was voted on by the majority of the council members that they accept the budget the way it is. It was distributed as was outlined in the budget bill, and everyone was given their appropriation. I had met you, Mr. Chair, prior to you leaving to your medical appointment in Manila, and I had mentioned to you that you will probably be receiving something from Mayor Ernest Chagla, and you had told me at that time that you wouldn't be able to look into it until you return from your medical appointment in Manila. Also, I had met with Senator Moylan, James Moylan, who came to my office because he also got the same request from Mayor Ernest to look into the VOM's funding in our current FY22 budget. I've also spoken to Senator San Augustine, who is the chair of the Appropriations Committee, and he told me that whatever is in the budget bill now is there because of what the legislature decided to do. And mind you, he said, Angel, you guys had a public hearing. You guys were, if you guys wanted to change anything, the public hearing was the avenue to do your request or to suggest whatever it is to do. I've spoken to several other senators. Senator Moylan had mentioned to Mayor Targalev that the mayors of Guam did not want to pursue the request to amend our budget appropriation in 3654, which actually is a misstatement. What I had mentioned to Senator Moylan was, in speaking with the powers that be in the legislature, they said now is not the time to amend any budget bill. It's already passed. It's already distributed. If there's going to be any changes, you come back into the FY23 budget cycle and you make your recommendations there. Now, I know Mayor Ernest was not privy to what went on prior to the discussions of the budget bill, even though he was given notice that these meetings were happening, that there was a public hearing. He chose not to appear. But in our meeting with Senator San Augustine and his staff and the chief of the Office of Finance and Budget, Steve Guerrero, your staff, John Paul, the president of the council, we had met at the senator's office, and we were given the bad news that for FY22, Mayor's Council of Guam was going to lose $5.3 million because they were going to stop funding MCOG from the Guam Highway Fund as proposed or as determined by the Office of Public Accountability. Now, of course, the president and I were shocked. Well, what do we do? What do we do with less than $5.3 million? We can't even operate. They were proposing that we were going to cut 2 employees from each of the villages. And those positions would then go to the Department of Public Works. That was going to happen this fiscal year. If it wasn't the insistence of the president and myself in asking Steve Guerrero to please not do it this year, we would be 2 employees less in each of the villages today and $5.3 million less in our budget. So we have to do a compromise. So it goes, Angel, so where do we cut so that we don't give you money from the Guam Highway Fund? Well, we compromised and they said, okay, we'll leave the 2 employees per village this time around. But we're telling you that in FY23, those 2 employees are not going to be there. Those 2 positions are not going to be there. And so that's what we're facing now, is that we're going to be losing 2 employees per village in FY23, if of course the Guam legislature goes that way. But going back to combining those 3 funding sources into one, into the VOMS, it was our compromise because we figured, well, how else is the mayor's office is going to carry out their office duties, their operations, if they're going to have 3 separate funding and each funding has a different way of it being spent. The only way for us is to combine it into one and have the mayors use it for their operations. Now, in the governor's executive budget submission to the legislature FY22, you would see that those 3 funding sources are there, but it does not stipulate how it's going to be divided into the different villages, especially for the public safety and social education programs. So the Mayor Ernest's contention that from 2010, 11, 12, up to the present time, there always was a formula used. And remember, Mr. Chair, and maybe some of you that have been in the legislature long enough, ever since I've become executive director of the Mayor's Council of Guam, every year I come before the legislature and ask the legislature to find some formula that is equitable, and is fair to all our villages. Because the one size fits all is not fair. The equal distribution is not fair. And every year, we get back the same formula. In fact, every year they tell us to use a formula for the road pavement improvement inventory from 2009. What year are we now? We're 2022. There's been more roads open in all the villages, but yet we're using an inventory that's based on the last certified listing from the Department of Public Works. And when we asked Senator San Augustine, how come we don't have a current road pavement inventory? He says, well, if you find it in your budget, go do one. It's $300,000 to conduct one. So maybe that's why the legislature just says, use the latest inventory. And the latest inventory is 2009. We got an inventory last year from Department of Public Works, but it was not broken down into villages. It was just the whole hundreds of pages of roads, and it doesn't tell you where it's at, or how long it is, or how many miles it is. So here we are today, because we combined 3 programs into one, and the formula that was used is this formula always used for the street maintenance, where it gives 20,000 to each village, and then the remaining is distributed pro rata based on road inventory. Of course, the bigger villages are going to get more money because they have more mileage, road mileage, and the smaller villages would get less because they have less mileage. So, but how do we, no matter which formula we use, Mr. Chair, and all due respect to Mayor Ernest, no matter what formula we use, not everyone is going to be happy. There's a recommendation that for FY23, we try and use village population. We almost did that last year, but because the 2020 census was still not out at that time, we said, well, we'll wait till the last census, 2020, is officially transmitted to Guam, then maybe we can use it. But Senator Adjourned knows, Senator Tello knows, Senator Joanne Brown knows, Speaker Terlaje knows, Senator Chris Duenas knows. For every time I come before the legislature, I always ask of all of you, please find us a formula that is equitable and that is fair. I know not everyone is going to be happy, but what if we turn the shoes around and we put a smaller village mayor in the big village and the big village mayor in the small village? Would that small village mayor that now is in a big village complain because he's getting all the bigger amounts of money? So this hearing today simply is, I guess, to ask the chair and your colleagues, would you be willing to amend 3654 to put back the budget allotments to last year's levels? Mind you also that we've already started spending the money. We're already in the second quarter. And maybe Senator San Augustine is correct. The only way we're able to change this is you wait for FY23. I know Mayor Ernest always says it's historical. It's always what's been followed, but Senator San Augustine made it very clear to me that a current legislature cannot be bound by the actions of any previous legislature. So if they wanted to change the formulas in FY22, they didn't have to follow the formula in FY21, 20, 19, 20, or 18, or any other year earlier than that. It's really up to the legislature. And one other thing, and while you're all here, is we've already been notified by Senator San Augustine that because MCOG is receiving ARPA funds, then we probably going to look at a further reduction in what we're going to get in by the Guam legislature. Probably no more bumps at all, because we're getting that money for operations from ARPA. And so it's really your decision. But I don't think anybody here made a mistake. I don't think there's any foreign language in the budget bill. As Mayor Ernest says, there's foreign language in there. I think what we did, and what I did as executive director, is distributed out the funds the way the budget bill says we were supposed to do it. Yes, there were villages that lost money in terms of what they had last year. But there are many years where we lost money. Everybody lost money. We went from 1.3 million in FY11 to now only 200,000 for that same funding program, the street maintenance. but we've survived it all. We found ways to be able to keep on going and keep on doing and keep on working. I just want to mention too that despite the fact that we keep getting reduced in funding, you have still been very supportive in finding other avenues that can help us to meet our mandates. And we truly appreciate that. I'm just thinking now that this FY23 budget, the way it's going to come out, if the mayors are not happy with formulas being used, then Steve Guerrero, also at that meeting with this president, told me last year that, hey, to make it simple for everyone, we'll just designate a budget for each of the villages. We'll just give them an amount, and that's all they're going to get. No formulas, no arguments, no big, no small, no medium. We'll just give you a budget, and it's up to you as a mayor or vice mayor to expend your money the way we give it to you. That's one option that he gave me that's going to happen in FY23. And so there's not much more than I can do. Like I said, I didn't forward the request of Mayor Ernest to the legislature because the majority of the colleagues already voted that they were not going to seek any change. The law is the law. But because Mayor Ernest is free on his own to request for a hearing, in fact, he wanted an oversight hearing because he wanted to make sure that we were doing everything correct, but you made it into a roundtable hearing. I appreciate the time you have given us, and I look forward to what the others are going to say, but that's all I have to say, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Indu. Before we go further, I just want to recognize some of my colleagues that are on with us. I want to recognize Senator Anthony Ada, sir. Thank you very much. Senator Terlaje, thank you very much. Speaker Terlaje, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Chris Dranius, thank you, sir. And Julian. Okay, the next, like I mentioned in the beginning, we're gonna just go ahead and allow every speaker to give about 10 minutes. Next in line that I would like to come again. I would like Mayor Ernest Chagra to share his thoughts regarding this one, regarding the Public Law 3654. Sir, Ernest, go ahead, sir.
Hello.
Ernest, can you turn on your? Okay, go ahead.
Senators, can you hear me?
Ernest, go ahead and give us your thoughts.
Yes, Senator. In the for fiscal year FY 2022, okay, when the Committee on Rules introduced Bill 55-36, okay, and it lapsed into law shortly after that. Okay, I called Angel up because I looked at the division language, and I knew that there's going to be a problem. And when I spoke to him, he told me that, no, Mayor, if you do it, it's going to be almost the same as the distribution of last year. But when I researched further, I found that the language in the division of the bumps, okay, was that each mayor's office shall receive and the remaining balance, shall receive the 20,000 and the remaining balance. And a division method has always been exclusively used for the SMB funding to be divided. I called up Angel and said, Angel, how do you propose to distribute this when the language and the division, there's no stopgap that would subject the PSSEP, which has always been divided equally, as well as the IWBBP. So that when I went and looked at the introduction of Bill 5536 as originally introduced, on page 44, Senators, there's section 54 located on page 44 and 45. is the appropriations to the mayor's council. And in that appropriation, $300,000 was appropriated from the host community fund. And 307,375 was appropriated from the Guam Territorial Educational Facilities Fund. And then the other one was $426, where that was appropriated. And then the page 44 went up to state that the appropriations were for the following programs. And that is where item A, identified street maintenance and beautification. And then item B is the island-wide village beautification projects. Item C is the public safety and social education programs. And then item D is the host community premium. Now, already at this point or at this juncture, you need to take the appropriate amount and slot them into the intended programs that they're to fund. So you take the $300,000 and slot it into item D, which is the host community premium. You take the 307,375 and slot it into the PSSEP. Now, where are you going to get your funding for the SMB and the IWVP? Of course, we're gonna get it from the 422 and 26. So you need to divide this into two portions, with 281,417 to go to the SMB and 147,09 to go to the IWVP. At this point in juncture, there's certain things that's one thing we have to do, but there's another thing that we have to amend the language in the division under the item A, because 281, that was done last year. 281,417 cannot comply with the language A and page 44.
Senator Ernest, just a minute. Can you adjust your certificate?
My volume, sir?
Can you make an adjustment?
On my volume? Am I recording?
Not your volume. We can only see half of your head.
Okay. I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, because it's not sure.
We're good to go. Ernie.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay,
But
sir.
senators, when you do this and you divide the 422, it shows when you go backward that all chapter 8s and all appropriations that have been appropriated make their way into the chapter 8 that pertains to the Mayor's Council Guam. If this, I sent my colleagues who were shortchanged based on this Exhibit A and Exhibit B. And I believe I left some documents with the speaker for the same matter. And that exhibit and you, Mr. Senator Terlaje, I left the same documents with you. That if you follow the chronological progression of Bill 55-36, when it came to chapter 8, okay. Subsequently, when the bill was referred to the Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriations, and Housing, a substitution was made. And if you look at the funding, I believe the original funding source for the 422-126. Look at the records, guys. The records speak for themselves. That the funding source was the Tourist Attraction Fund, but when it was substituted, it listed. That's the only substitution I can place based on the original introduction of Bill 5536. It was replaced to be funded by the general fund. Now, I don't know if it matters, but the amount is still the same. So the items A, B, and C that should have made it into chapter 8 was substituted by the bumps. I sent the letter to the director and the president of this council asking where is the transmitted letter requesting that, because I believe, I don't work the legislature, but I believe that any substitution or any amendment has to come from a request to do so. So it is phantomly, the bumps just appeared on chapter 8 going forward in the chronological progression. Where is the transmitted letter asking to be substituted and to consolidate the three programs that have always been historically divided and always been funded by the appropriations from the legislature. Now all of a sudden they erase that and replace with the consolidation of BOMPs, which is when the acronyms are derived from the programs themselves. The VOM, you can find that language or those words under the street maintenance and beautification. And then the B, which is shared, the beautification is shared by the street maintenance and the Island Village beautification. They share the B, letter B for beautification. And the PS is derived from the public safety and social education programs. I'm in agreement with the consolidation, like Angel said, but take into account the historical division that these fundings have always been divided. Okay? That is why I asked, where is the transmittal letter? Because this wrongs when it was pursued and introduced. It should have been accompanied by the appropriate language that would take into account how these programs have been funded and how they've been divided, and the division methods used historically were disregarded, discarded, and ignored with the introduction of the BOMPs. And it resulted in 13 mayors, 13 villages, which is the majority of 19. And now we're gauging the members. But, that's why I asked who make that decision, because that decision should have been followed with the appropriate action so that we can get our funding consolidated for flexibility purposes. But why are we going to pursue a consolidation only to lose significant amounts? And in pneumatics case, lost 14,000 in the process. That is why I'm asking who made that decision. This is inequitable. I mean, I understand the director saying that 2 people are going to get cut. If you guys go back to FY21, Public Law 35-99, I tracked that when the Committee on Rules introduced Bill 282-35 LS, the original appropriations, okay, was 1,281,252. That is coming from the general fund or the tourist attraction fund. When the bill was referred to the Committee on General Government Appropriations and Housing, it was reduced from 1.2. Okay, and already on Chapter 8 is showing that the funding went down to 281 for the SMB, which would have been 888.61 had the thing not been reduced, and the 400,391 that would fund the Island White Village beautification project. Well, that was reduced as well down to 400. Now down to 147.09. If Bill 282-35 had tracked the way historically appropriations have been tracking for the past 15, 16 years that these programs have been going on, it would have mirrored the distribution, the appropriation of FY 2020. Now, I have no qualms with that because I didn't have a problem until we had a distribution dispute in the SMB process distribution last year. That is why I was interested to see how these things are going. We mayors almost got shortchanged last year in the method of division that was haphazard at the best, with no formula, no system in the division that would provide an equitable distribution of the funds. Because every year since 2007, senators, since 2007 up until 2020, the standard language in the division of the SMB, the Street Maintenance and Beautification Program, has always been language A, that each mayor's office shall receive $20,000, and the remaining balance is going to be distributed on a pro rata basis, okay, based on the respective village's total road mileage as a percentage to the total mileage inventory of Guam held by the Department of Public Works. I know the process, senators and Mr. Director. This language had to be amended last fiscal year because the 281,417, which should have been 888.61, if the bill wasn't substituted and the funding was reduced. So we have to make an amendment. If you track, senators, if you track the progression, the chronological progression of Bill 282-35, you will see that that language A would apply when it's first introduced. When you look at the substitution, the language A that is, even though the amount showing to 81.7, it still had the language A that each mayor's office shall receive 20,000 until the final chapter 8 of Bill 282/35 that subsequently the senators overrode. Okay, they changed language A that was stating that each mayor's office shall receive, to each mayor's office may receive up to 20,000. That is the standard. That is the precedence that we have to follow this year. Had the bonds not been introduced, senators, we took this council, and I've been asking since November 6th, who made the decision to pursue the bonds? Up to now, I just received this morning. Wow, how appropriate for this council from the president of this director. I am a member of this council. I expected that they're going to act in the best interest of everyone concerned. How can you act in the best interest when you have 13 mayors losing funding varying from 2,000 or 3,000 all the way to 14,000 to the elation of 6 others that are dancing with the stars?
Can we allow Angel to? Because you're giving us a whole lot of things that we don't really understand. But can we go back to the director and give us some kind of feedback on just what you're talking about? Because there's a lot that you're saying that I'm not even familiar with. So Angel, can you go ahead and not rebuttal, but give us your insight on what Ernie was talking about?
I will try, Mr. Chair. The initial submission of the FY22 budget at street maintenance and beautification, which is SMB, it had island-wide beautification, which is IWVBP, the acronym, and it has PSSEP, which is Public Safety and Social Education Program. 3 different programs, 3 different amounts, and different funding sources. There was no letter transmitted to the Office of Finance and Appropriation to change those programs into VOMs. It was done at the public hearing conducted for our budget. We can go back to the recording when we had that budget hearing in June. I had mentioned to all of you that because of our shortfalls and reduction in funding, it would be best to combine these funding sources into one so that our mayors have the ability and the flexibility to use these 3 funding sources into one for their operations without having to figure out where they're going to get their gas, where they're going to get money for repairs, where they're going to get money for equipment, where they're going to get money for repair. We combine it into one, and it becomes one source of funding for their operations. That was in the public hearing. There was no letter transmitted. It was done publicly through your public forum. When you were called to the office of Senator San Augustine to meet with Steve Guerrero and a member of your staff, Mr. Chair, we were told that they were going to honor our request to make it into one. Because if they did not, or we did not agree, then we were facing a $5.3 million reduction in our budget, because they had to figure out a way to reduce our dependence on the Guam Highway Fund, which we then agreed to. They didn't completely take out the Guam Highway Fund in FY22, but they certainly did reduce it by a lot. And I know that in FY23, we probably will not have any money from the Guam Highway Fund. So I know that Mayor Ernest keeps asking, where did it all come from? Mayor Tony Charcola was the only mayor at that public hearing. Others probably listened by Zoom, but it was at that public hearing where I made that recommendation. I did not make a recommendation on the formula. What I did mention at that public hearing as well is please find us a way or a formula that can be equitable for the distribution. I did not say put everything in the 20,000 and give everybody the pro rata of road inventory. I didn't say give everybody 15,000 equally. I did not say any of that. I said, please find a formula that is equitable for everybody. So that's where that's coming from. But there was no letter of transmittal.
Thank you very much, Angel. Let me just recognize two of our senators. Senator Sabina Perez is on with us, and also Senator James Moylan. And I'm going to allow the maybe the senators to just recap on what was mentioned by Ernest and what was mentioned by Angel in comparison. So maybe let me start out with the speaker to Mr. Lai. Whatever question that you need to ask them.
Okay, thank you. Well, Mr. Chair, I'm very anxious to hear from the rest of the mayors. I think I understand the issue to be that we did not reduce the mayor's council's overall budget. We actually gave a little bit more compared to FY21, but when they combine these different programs into one, the language of the bill that was passed, the budget bill, says that that money, those three programs normally divided, I guess equally, was now going to be divided based on roads, which is how only one of those programs used to be divided. Road mileage. And so of course, my concern is whether road mileage is appropriate for programs like social education programs, right? And whether when they use that formula, the mayors have enough to run the programs that they're mandated to run at this point. And so I think Mayor Chargaloff is correct that if you look at what happened, when the formula was applied, that 13 villages were reduced, and some of them quite significantly. And maybe 6 villages were increased and even more significantly. So I just want to give an example. The shows, so 13 villages decreased, like Agana Heights by 10,000, Asan Maina minus 9,000, Hagat minus 8,000, Hagatnya minus 13,000, Himatak minus 14,000, Inalahan minus 6,000, Nalesu minus 12,000, Bangmang Toto Mighty minus 7,000, PD minus 9,000, Santa Rita minus 4,000, Sinhanya minus 13,000, Talafofa minus 7,000. And the reason why I thought these numbers, I wanted to hear today, and I heard today now that it takes about, if I am understanding correctly, about 15,000 to run or what they were used to using to run the social education programs was about 15,000 each. And so I am a little concerned that whether the formula prevents them from running adequate programs. Of course, the road-based formula is good for road-based work, right? Like, street beautification or street repairs and things like that, with the maintenance, which the mayors were responsible for. But they're also mandated to use these monies for recreation areas in their villages. And I know those are not, divided by road formula. They're supposed to use it for the public restrooms in their villages. And they're supposed to use it for, beautification in other ways, not necessarily based on roads. Yeah, so that is, I think it's a concern. I'd like to hear from the other villages. I think it's correct. So we see the testimony from the director, Mr. Sablan, that was submitted during the budget session or the budget hearing, which said combine the 3 programs for each village, right? But combine them so that they can use them flexibly, not to combine them and then use the road formula for all of them. I think that's the difference. I hope I'm stating this fairly. So he did ask that the beautification, the road maintenance, and the public safety social education program be combined so that the mayors can use that funding flexibly among the 3 programs. But I don't think he at that time proposed the formula that's been applied, and that is a road-based formula for all funds, right? So I think the funds should be distinguished if they're used for social education programs. If there's a minimum that every village needs to run a social education program, then we should be sure to address that. And so I didn't finish, but just very quickly. So some of the increases that we're seeing are, 50,000 increase in Derido, 47,000 increase in Jigo, 7,000 increase to Muning, 2,000 increase in Jotnyan, and about 4,800 increase in Vergara. So a few villages, but I know if you're operating on these small budgets that this kind of money is huge. So thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to wait for the rest of the mayors for their testimonies.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. We're going to go back to some of the mayors to give us their thoughts. Then we go to the president of the Mayor's Council. President Alec, sir, go ahead.
Senators, I can only say that at the very beginning, or at the time we were discussing our budget, we had these discussions with the entire council. At the end of the day, the council approved the way we were gonna, what we were gonna send to the legislature. The council approved what the bill looked like, and the majority was happy. I can't say that changing this is going to be good for anyone at this point in the game, because most of us have already spent our money. And Speaker, I do recognize that thank you for recognizing the social education portion, and perhaps every mayor should be accountable for their programs and show us what you're doing with that 15,000 for social education, so that, because we do have a problem in our community with those types of programs, or the lack of those programs. So the problem, Speaker and Senators, with breaking up all of that is we can't pay gas out of social education. So if we're short for gas, we can't tap into that money. And yes, we all agreed that combining it was best because the flexibility is there. We can pay for gas, we can buy books, we can pay tutors, we can cut grass. The flexibility is necessary. Equitability, or a formula, was necessary because I mentioned in my response to the mayor today, only today, and yes, I'd only responded to him today because we've talked about it so many times in the council meetings, and we voted again to discuss this at the council meeting, and it was voted down that we would not continue this conversation because it was already done. And we agreed with what the bill looked like, the budget bill looked like, and the governor, it was law. So there was no point in talking about it, I think, at this point. I forgot my last thought, but the thing is, we've already talked about it. The council, nothing was done under the table. The flexibility is there for the mayors. Certainly we received more money this fiscal year because I think we got 10 million versus the 9, I believe, last fiscal year. But our utilities increased, right? So all of those things increased, and so the net, our net budget was reduced, and that's what happened, and that's why there was less money. And so certainly for many years, PT received the same amount as Derido, Tamuning, and Jigo. And so yes, I'm happy that the larger villages received more. And yes, I believe that us 13 got less, but for decades, since I've been a part of the council, Jigo, Derido, Tamuning, Barrigada, Mingila they received the same amount as PT. I don't have too much more to say and I'm willing to answer any questions senators might have, other than I believe Angel and I have worked with, the senators that helped us put this budget bill together for fiscal 22. I believe that we shared it at our meetings. We do have records that, we shared it at our meetings in May and June. And like I said, like Angel mentioned, he was at the public hearing. Everybody knew about the public hearing, and only one other mayor appeared at the public hearing. That's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And at this point in time, we'll go to the mayor of Pedo, Mayor Savares. Melissa, ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank you for holding this roundtable. But I want to let you know that prior to the passing of the budget bill for this fiscal year, 3 consecutive months at a mayor's council meeting, Angel, during the executive director's report, continued to tell us for 3 consecutive months that if you have concerns, he gave us a breakdown because he and the president were going back and forth to Speaker San Agustine's office with his team to go over the budget. They went continuously, reminded us that this is the breakdown every month, April, May, June. Every month they were giving us a breakdown and an update on what the different budget sections of the budget were going to entail. And if they were not happy with it, to please go to your favorite senator and have your senator turn in an amendment, or go let us know. And Angel and the president had said that let us know what changes you want to make, where Mayor Chargaliff was during these meetings. He was present at the meetings. I don't know if he was listening to Angel at the time, but what happened was Angel, during his executive director's report, did inform us during those 3 months of mayor's council meetings that this is what is happening with the budget bill. Another thing is, if they're upset, I mean, how else? We tried to find other formulas we in the past on how to divide. It's going to be worse if we divide it by population, because we have over 44,000 people in Pedo, where some of the smaller villages don't even have 1,200 people. So to divide it by population will really give them much, much less than what we're dividing by road. Much, much less rather than what we're dividing by road mileage. So I think that the road mileage that they're using, and it is an outdated road mileage for 2009, since 2009, but we can't afford it. Would have to be the mayor's council to pay that $300,000 to get a contractor to do a new road mileage inventory, and we don't have that kind of money. That kind of money, the $300,000, can be spent in the villages, and so we choose to go with the road mileage because it's the fairest way. But it's if we choose another route to base it on population, I feel sorry for my colleagues. Right now, my colleagues can spend maybe $19 per resident per year. I can spend 26 cents per resident per year. Senators, that doesn't even pay for the verifications that we print for them. It doesn't even pay for the services that we provide for them, funeral escorts, chairs and canopy setups. So what we can spend with the money that we get is a minimal. It's a drop in the bucket compared to what my colleagues can spend in their villages. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Savares. I know that Senator Chargaliff wants to speak again, but I want to allow the other mayors to give us share their thoughts to us, and then we'll probably go back to Mayor Ernest. So at this point in time, I want to call on Mayor Gogwe from Chalapargo Order. Sir, go ahead.
Thank you, Senator, and for allowing me to speak. And I welcome all, I thank all the senators who are attending this meeting for being here as well. I appreciate what Mayor Savares had just stated regarding, the executive director's attempts in early part of calendar year 2021 to talk about and address the concerns we needed to be aware of with regard to the FY22 budget. I freely admit that I wasn't at any of those meetings only because at that point in time, I was homebound. So I wasn't aware of the impending impacts of the legislative decisions with regard to FY 2022's budget until after it was actually passed into law. And I understand why Ernest did what he did, Mayor Trugglove did what he did, and I understand the frustrations because as it is clear, 13 of 19 villages lost funding. And I think it was an unintended consequence that when we combine the street maintenance budget and the island-wide beautification budget and the public social safety education budget into one to call it this VOMS. And, there should have been an understanding that the combination was to allow us greater flexibility in the use of these funds, but the percentages between the SMB and the other two fundings should have been, the integrity should have been maintained, and that only the street mileage should be applied to a certain percentage of the amount of funds that were given to the mayors. Maintaining what Mayor Ernest is contending should have been done for FY22, so that there would be some standard of expectations that would have been maintained, especially for those mayors who didn't realize what was happening. Because this COVID-19, this pandemic has really made it difficult for us to stay on top of a lot of different things that are administrative in nature, because we're being pressed to do all of the operational things in our villages. And having to do those things with the similar impact to our staff, working with reduced staff because we have people infected and they're home and so on and so forth, or they're tending to a family member who was afflicted by the virus. And so this has been a unique year. And I guess the takeaway for me anyways, is that we really need to try to prevent this from happening in FY 2023. And I know Angel said that, Senator San Augustine is saying that this is going to happen and we could potentially lose 2 employees out of, for my office, I have a total of 7 employees and I make number 8, as the mayor. I'm not like the other villages that have a vice mayor who are entitled to an additional municipal clerk because they have a vice mayor. I'm not a village with a gym yet who are entitled to maybe 3 or 4 employees because they have a gym. They operate a gym. I'm not a village that has a senior center that has additional personnel to run that senior center and also help with the day-to-day operations of the mayor's office. So I'm not one of those villages, but what I am is, if you take a look at the 2020 census, I am the 7th largest district by population. I'm the 7th largest district in road mileage. And so when these changes occur, it impacts me quite significantly because I'm that middle village. I'm not small, I'm not large. And then when we take a look at the large villages, each of those villages, the large villages, Dedido, Jigo, Dedido, Tamuning, Barragata, Manilo, they have a vice mayor. And then we have 2 additional villages that are smaller than me that have vice mayors as well, with an additional municipal clerk. And out of those 2 villages, both now have gymnasiums and senior centers. They have more personnel than me. And so, again, for me personally, I'll deal with what I have to deal with and I'll make ends meet like we always do. And Angel pointed that out. Whether you give us $10 or $100, we do what we need to do with the monies we got and we do the best we can. And if we means taking out of our own pockets to do the rest of it, that's what we're going to do, because That's what we were elected to do. You know, at least personally, that's what I was elected to do, is to make sure that I meet the needs of the community and that I'm here to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our community. But at the end of the day, you know, we really need to figure this out, because I understand the larger villages, but they get 2 votes and I only get 1 because they have vice mayors. I've got 2 smaller villages that gets 2 votes as, you know, within our council, because, you know, they have a vice mayor and I don't. You know, I don't know what's equitable, but, you know, I think the discussion has been long and coming, because, you know, equity is what we always seek. And what happened this year is definitely not equitable, as far as most of us are concerned. And I you know, that, but at least for me personally, and I wish I had, I'm almost, yeah.
Gotcha.
So thank you, and hopefully this won't happen again.
Okay, at this time, let's go to the mayor of Tamuning. Mayor Rivera, go ahead, give us your thoughts.
Hafaday, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving us this opportunity. Everybody pretty much said what was going on, and every year I'm always, you know, trying to find out why they haven't updated the road inventory, especially with all the new roads that have opened up, a lot of new housing development. There's a lot more roads and residents that we need to tend to. And so even, you know, we always, either way, we work with each other, we help each other out, whichever way we can. But, you know, there's a lot more demand coming through to Tamuning. Everybody's coming down to like to Tuaman, the tourist area, the shopping malls, the you know, the only public hospital that we have, you know, so you know, we're happy to, you know, always share and work together, but you know, we want to make sure that we're given the amount of funding that we need, you know, to operate. And you know, the fairness, again, looking at population wise or road inventory, whatever it is, I mean, we really need to have that updated. Every year I'm calling the director of DPW to see if there's an updated inventory. How come it hasn't been done? I mean, you know, so that, you know, it's part of the law to use that formula. And it's so sad that we've been using, you know, old inventory reports. So, you know, that's my thought. I'm glad to be here to listen to what everyone's saying. And yes, we've been discussing it every year. It may not be how we like it to be, but, you know, we have the votes and, you know, majority rules. It doesn't always go in our favor, but, you know, we need to work it out. And we're happy to have this discussion with all of you so that something can be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And this time we'll go to Mayor Paul McDonald, the Mayor of Ganahag, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. You have anything to say, Paul?
No.
Okay.
I have nothing to say.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Senator. Let me go to the mayor. Let me go to my favorite mayor of Agad, Mayor Kevin Suswico. Go ahead, Kevin.
Hafaday, Mr. Chair, senators. You know, kind of listening to everything that has been said. Of course, you know, we did have the opportunity to speak, but as Mayor Gogwe also pointed out, I don't think that any of us really truly realized the impact of, you know, of how it would hurt us later on combining. I think when we were introduced to we were always speaking about having more flexibility on a budget and being able to spend where we felt we would need to spend. But, you know, taking an $8,000 cut for our municipality, of course, definitely has hurt. Good thing where during this time of COVID, we don't have the regular programs like we normally do in which we actually spend that money for. And so, as again pointed out by my colleague, is that, you know, we will do whatever we can do to make right or to spend for with the little resources that we have, and stretch as much as we can. But at the same time, if there is an equitable way to do it, I think that it's that time. I think it's long overdue. And Mayor Luis is right. We've been asking for this road mileage to be updated, and it hasn't been done. And we just kind of lumped everything in together. And it just, again, in the end, we didn't realize that we were going to be impacted that much. And so I'm just kind of listening to everybody and just trying to figure out, we do really need to come to a solution at the end of the day for this, because we all feel it. And of course, we know that the larger villages, need the money too. And, even us down here in the smaller villages, we still need our funding. So either way, when there's a cut, we're all gonna hurt. And that's the bottom line. And when there was money, we all had our share too. So I just hope that we can come to some kind of greater formula, so that moving forward, we won't have to have this conversation again. We're operating on a $56,000 budget down here in the municipal level for Hoggett, and it's hard. It's really tough. And again, thank goodness that we're getting a little bit of extra funds that are coming in through ARPA, but I feel for the rest of my colleagues that, of course, in the larger villages, and we're right in the mid to small, and so whenever there's any kind of money taken away from us, at the end of the day, we're going to feel it. So I just hope that we can come to some kind of agreement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Let me go to Mayor Chagrala, the mayor of my favorite village in Iran. Go ahead, sir.
Day Chair, the rest of the senators, Speaker, thank you very much for this opportunity. Being the freshman mayor, I want to say that at least this is the conclusion I'm deriving at, is that the funding from 2021 and the funding from 22 hasn't changed, yet the division and the way it was divvied up, apparently there was a significant change. And so I'm not just speaking for myself, but maybe perhaps the other 13 villages. One thing I do want to capitalize on today is this. I know everybody's talking about a formula, and I want to present this as an idea. I personally, I feel that the fair and equitable distribution should be based on population. And even though a good example is if we use a population, and I'm going to use $1 million, for example, I'm saying that we take the 85% of 1 million, which is 850,000, and we divvy it up equally among the villages. The remaining 15% or 150,000 will be divvied up based on population. And this, of course, is going to be, I believe, very equitable. In this instance, Dededo, who normally gets 21% based on the road mileage, will actually be getting now 29%. So in essence, you'll be getting an increase of 11,000 more, or in other words, 32,000 is what she would get based on road mileage on the 150,000. She would be actually getting 43,788 based on population. So again, I feel that that's fair, and I'll tell you why. I looked at, and I'm sorry to say this, but Mayor Humatak, for example, I'm going to use his road mileage based on information is right around 5 miles. My thing is that 5 miles may remain constant, knowing that there may never be a development in terms of new roads or what have you to be built. However, if you travel to Humatak, from the time you exit Hoggett into Humatak, there's a lot of very much undeveloped areas. So if for example, next year, 20,000 people from Dededo decide to relocate down to Humatak, why would Mayor Abada still be recognized for his 5 miles? I believe that he should be recognized for his population growth. Unfortunately, it's very, people will question like, yeah, but that's not going to take another 10 years for us to get the next census. Well, we've been stuck with road mileage for the last 12, 13 years. That has not changed. And if we're going to be talking about 300,000 in terms of spending to make the determination where the road mileage is, then so be it. But that's something that we have not, no one has been, I want to say, going out there to try to make sure that this gets accomplished. So again, I want to say that in many cases, even I want to say like in the area like Tamuning right now, based on road mileage, will be getting 11,507 compared to 18,000 based on population. They're going to see a significant increase of 6,440. In Alahan, based on road mileage, will only be getting 4,754 versus if I was to do it by population, I'll be getting 2,200, a decrease of 2,500. But you know what? I feel that that's fair, because then it's something, because I expect in Alahan's population to grow, and when that happens, then I'm expect a bigger percentage. And here's, let me share something with you that's I want to say very big, and I hope that Mayor Agatnia and Sinanya are understanding with what I'm trying to accomplish here in terms of Agatnia right now only has 943 based on population, but their road mileage is at 7.48. Sinahanya, on the other hand, only has 6.26 miles, but their population is at 2,611. So if you take that, Agatnia right now based on road mileage is getting 3,700, and Sinanya based on road mileage only getting 1,300. Where is that? That's not equitable. If you have to deal with more people, I believe you should get more money. So again, I'm proposing and recommending that whatever the amount or budget is being given to the mayors, that we collectively agree that 85% will be broken down first equally to each village, and the remaining 15%, or in this case, 150,000, gets divvied up based on population. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And let's go to the mayor of Umatak. My favorite mayor from Umatak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sir.
And thank you, your colleagues, for doing this roundtable meeting. Director and the president, thank you. And I know I was in that meeting, but I came in late. I just want to let everybody know they were discussing that. I wasn't there. I came in late after that when they spoke about the budget. So the thing that I want to talk about is the Senator Terlaje. When I was talking to her, when she was speaking about all this road mileage and stuff. Mayor Louise was since she became mayor, she's been talking about the road mileage, and it never changed. It always stays the same. And I'm listening to everybody about how much they lost, and I understand what Jesse Gogu is saying. Yes, the budget they gave us, and first of all, I want to thank Ernest for speaking up for me and Tony Charlotte. I want to thank the two. They're trying just to help me, because this is a first time for me to know all this budget stuff, and now I'm starting to learn everything about it. And I'm hearing it from Therese, I'm hearing from Jess, the mayors. Now I'm hearing from the mayor. Now I'm starting to learn everything what's going on. And that road mileage, it's just impossible, because I have a lot of vegetation down here. I got a new baseball field now that I have to take care of. And my fuel is only 6,000. That's how much fuel I got. But I'm not going to complain. I'm going to do what Jesse Gogi says. And Mayor Hoggett, I'm going to make what I can do with what money I have. But I'm just letting my colleagues know that this got to be fair. I'm looking at all this. I don't want my colleagues I don't want to have any enemies with my colleagues. I want to work with them, but this is not fair. Come on, just look at the documents. This is not fair. Thank you, Therese, Senator Therese, for seeing it, but this is not fair. That's because my village only has 12,000 people, but come down here and see what work I do every day. Sometimes I don't even get a backhoe down here to help my multi and my people down here. I have 8 multis. I don't push the directors, and I'm not the kind of mayor to push and shove. If they're going to help me, they're going to help me. But my people are so important to me, and my village is so important to me. And this is why I thank you, Senator. I thank you, Jesse Gowi, Ernest, for speaking for the right reasons. Because this thing hurts me a lot. in my village. I never seen so much money. Remember, money is it's greedy. Look at this money. Greed is not going to get you anywhere. Friendship can get you far. That's what I'm telling you. Money is nothing for me. And I always tell everybody that. It's your friendship that is very important to me. That's why I'm speaking for myself now. This is for myself. You come down to my village, it's the hospitality and your friendship. I don't need your money, but my people and my village is so important to me that I keep this village clean. So that when you guys come down here, the tourists come down here every weekend, lots. But I'd rather have your friendship than your money. I don't need the money. That's why I'm talking now, to let you guys know. The director and the president, they're doing their job. Ernest has fought for me 2020, FY21 or 20. He got me the money, $11,000 cash. I appreciate what Ernest did for me, Ernest Terlaje. He's always looking up to me because he's my partner and next to my village. So that's why I'm supporting my friend, because he's helping me. But this is not about my money. I just follow him because he's always fighting for me. He fought once, he won it for me. So he's trying to help me. But I try not to make my colleagues hate me for what we're doing here. I'm hurt. Yes, I'm hurt. I'm hurting because the money that I have. Mayor Savares is right. Population, bigger village. But remember, we're all humans here. We're all humans. We're from the South. Sometimes we have hard time getting things when we ask. And I hear it from all the other mayors. But I'm not going to push and shove to make me lose friends. I'm not going to do that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator. And we're going to give all the mayors that are with us today an opportunity. And we got one mayor and one vice mayor that is on with us today, this afternoon. So I'm going to call on the Asan Maina Mayor, Mayor Frankie Salas. Mayor, can you just turn on your camera, please? Mayor Salas? Okay, there we go. Go ahead, sir. Can you unmute Frankie, sir? Unmute, Mayor.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, we got you. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for allowing me on this session about senators and vice speaker. But the problem that we have here too is the budget that I'm receiving now is kind of low. I'll be honest to you, even now, my budget, I'm still waiting actually to complete or what we need to do for our project in Janssen. Janssen, Manila is a big village, just to include Limits Hill. So far with the budget, I guess I agree with the rest of my colleagues. I don't have any more disappointment with the other colleagues because, I don't want to be an enemy, but yes, like even now I have to borrow some, like again Heights or writing more because we don't have any writing more. And be honest to you, even my boost cutters only have 2. And eventually what I do is trying to eliminate issues. I don't want to fight over budget, but I'm for sure that, what I have is what I get. I'm not going to be fighting anymore, but I agree, what the rest of my colleagues were talking about. It's nothing much to say, actually. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And next in line, we want to go to the Vice Mayor of Tamuning, Vice Mayor Albert Tobes. Go ahead, sir. Vice Mayor, turn on your camera, please. I guess it's not on. Vice Mayor, are you on?
I know he's out on the field right now.
Okay, so let me just go to the senators then. We're gonna start off with Senator Tony Ada, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any questions. I just thank the mayors and the vice. I'll wait to see what the vice mayor says, but further concerns on what they've been appropriated and see how we can go forward in assisting them and what needs to be done. Perhaps, I'm not sure what we can do at this point, but we'll continue to listen and work with you, Mr. Chairman, and with the OFB director. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Senator. Next in line, we go to Senator Tello. Senator Tello, ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you, Senator Terlaje, for the opportunity, Mr. Chair. And thank you to all the mayors providing testimony, and especially to you, Director Sablan. Yes, being there at the public hearings for the budget bill. It now gives me pause to go back and review what was said during there, just to put what everybody said into perspective. So I can review the budget hearings. We still have it on tape in case Mayor Gogui, if you were absent, you can go back and review those tapes as well. But as I'm looking at both bills, I have it side by side with each other, FY21 and FY22. And just listening to what everyone was talking about, I think the mayor of Inalahan had a great suggestion. It's obvious that there needs to be an update on the maintenance of the road, non-routed road, public roads to be reviewed again, and then maybe even think about population. So it's obvious that the mayors need to get together and discuss this again, and all agree. But my concern too is, as I'm looking at this, we did give a little bit more based on last year's budget of 9,267,270 versus this year FY22 at 10,282,372, a little bit more. But I'm wondering, how did the public safety and social education program that was appropriated at 307,375, that's $15 million to each of the mayor's office. None of that was incorporated into FY22. I know that you lumped everything together in section 3 of the bill, of this FY22 bill, Operation Maintenance Beautification Public Safety Program. So I guess the question, I'll take it to you, Director Sablan. How are the mayors divvying up any type of money for the public safety and school education programs, which was given to them last year at $15,000?
Well, they've been getting the PSSEP funding for more than just last year. There's many fiscal years before that they had that. And it's always been a program that had to be approved by their MPC as to how they spent it. But in all these previous years, we just had a blanket approval from all the MPCs as to what kind of programs, and it just covers a myriad of public safety and educational programs that the mayor's offices can conduct. So that's what they use. Like the president says, maybe if this 15,000 cannot be divvied out equally in future budgets, maybe it's time that each mayor's office be accountable for where they spend that $15,000. And so that they can come forward and say, hey, I put together a summer youth program, I put together a after school program, I put together a neighborhood watch program and things like that, and the expenditures and the expenses. so that we know what each village is spending it for.
Director, so the question
I
is,
also want to say that as a director, I have these 26 bosses, and I don't think anybody stresses more than I do. And I didn't forget them. I didn't forget them when ARPA came around and the governor said, can you break down what funding sources you need? And I truly remembered that we had a shortfall. We had a shortfall in our budget, in our street maintenance and beautification. We had a shortfall in island-wide beautification, and we had a shortfall in our public safety. But you know, democracy as it is, the mayors decided they weren't going to break it down based on those funding programs, the amount of money that I got from the governor of the over $800,000. They didn't want to break it down based on those 3 programs. Instead, they just lumped it all together, because I gave them those options anyway, to be fair. I gave them 3 options. And one of the options was just to lump it all together and you decide what you want to do with it. Well, they decided to break it down and distribute it equally. So each one of them is getting $46,954. And yes, although I realize it's not part of the FY22 budget, but at least it makes up for what they lost in FY22. The one that lost the most, Humatek, is getting almost 47,000. Everybody's getting almost $47,000. So nobody's lost. Everybody has gained. And this is money that they probably weren't looking forward to, because none of them knew that I was going to ask for this as part of the shortfall in ARPA. But that's because I was, I know, and I respect Mayor Ernest. You know, he fights for what he believes is right. And when he sees that, things from the previous year is not the same as this previous year, of course, it's going to open his eyes and everybody's eyes and say what went wrong, what happened. But like I always mention in the public hearings, it's not for me to decide how this money is to be broken down. There's 15 of you. You decide, and apparently you decided, and this is what you did. In the FY23, I don't know whether there'll be a VOMS. I don't know if there'll be even 3 different and 1 program for operating of the mayors, but if there is, then we have to really seriously think at what kind of formula we're going to use. If we're going to put aside money for public safety and social education programs and do that funding source again separately, I think it can happen as long as it doesn't come from the Tourist Attraction Fund or the public or the Guam Highway Fund. You've got to find some other funding source for it.
Yeah, like this year, you did not receive any funding from the Tourist Attraction Fund, as well as the, I believe you didn't receive any funding from the Territorial Education Facilities Fund as well, too, if I'm not mistaken. There are certain agencies.
Yes,
yeah. Oh, you did, okay. But there's a lot of shortfalls in the CRER report for these special funds, a lot of shortfalls, and we tried to make up for it in the general fund by providing additional funding. I'm sure a lot of your meetings were also, minutes of the meetings were taped to discuss this and look back for the record to find out, if the meeting and things that were discussed in the meeting was something that it was a majority vote by all mayors and vice mayors put together. But yeah, I definitely understand your feeling, your sentiments, having 20 plus bosses to answer to. As senators, we have about 160,000 bosses that we have to answer to as well. So it becomes very difficult, trying to please everybody at this point. But I think if we find a fair playing ground, and I know very well all the mayors and spoke to them personally, that I'm sure you guys can all get together, sit down and come up with a solution that benefits everybody and definitely brings that fair playing ground to the table. And whatever we can do as senators to help move that initiative along, we're standing by for that. So I greatly appreciate everyone's testimony today. Looking forward to reading some of the minutes of your meetings in the past to determine what really went on. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. You're on mute, Mr. Chair. You're on mute.
I said, I was mentioning that I was going to call Senator Joanne Brown next, but I guess she left. Let me call on our good senator, Senator Chris Duenas. Sir, go ahead, sir.
Mr. Chairman, and it's been interesting, of course, to take in all the information from our mayors and our vice mayors. I know this issue has been on the table. I did meet with Mayor Ernest and, went over what was presented. I guess my difficulty, and I have to make sure I'm clear again on this, and, to the director, Angel, can I be clear once again? I believe this language, at least from the basis of the way the mayors had presented, was the language that ended up in the bill that we finally passed. Is that correct?
What I testified to at the public hearing was to combine these three different programs into one to give the mayors a greater flexibility as to how they expend these funds, especially because many of them would over-expend in one funding source, and then we have to try to remodify everything and tap in from the other funding source. So instead of doing that and expending more time and effort for something that can be resolved by putting it into one program, that's what I testified to. But at the same time, as I mentioned earlier, I also asked that please find a formula that is equitable and fair for the distribution.
Okay.
But what came out of the legislature for FY22 was the language you see now.
Okay. Yeah, I think my concern at this point is, the point that's been made by Mayor Jesse and the president, and I'm not opposed to, but I don't know what it would mean at this point if we introduce an amendment to the Budget Act, if these funds have been expended. Angel, in terms of the way that the distribution is being managed and the like, would there be any possibilities of reconciliation, or would it be a supplemental appropriation, or how would that even work if we entertain the idea to change the language, or should this be something prospective that we do with a little bit more clarity, working with Office of Finance and Budget to ensure the 2023 budget is reflective of what the majority of the council desires?
Well, I can't say what FY23 budget is going to look like or how it's going to be put together, but at this point in time, we're already in the second quarter. I think an amendment to our current appropriation, because we've already divided out to all the 19 villages. So every one of them has started expending from the bombs. I think if there's money available, I don't know if there is, but of course, a supplemental will probably be the easiest. You're talking about around $130,000 to make whole those 13 villages that lost the average between $8,000 to $14,000 based on the present formula.
Okay. Well,
and then leave intact the 6 villages that gained because they already got it. It's not their fault that they received that kind of money. It was because of the formula.
Yeah,
and they've already planned out the rest of the year based on what they received.
That's going to be the challenge, Mr. Chair, and so I'll just continue to listen. But it's a situation whereby we certainly have to follow the law. There's no question about that. But if it's not resolved at this level, I other than prospectively, we're going to have to discuss that amongst ourselves. But certainly take into account everything that's been presented. I'm just going to listen to the balance of the meeting and be available for any questions to us, Mr. Chair. So just Masi.
Senator, I can trustfully agree that an amendment is not going to happen because some of the money has been expended, and I have to agree that maybe along the line maybe we can think about supplemental to the budget on Bill 3654. That's all that I can say right now. But even as far as making amendments, I don't think it's possible, other than doing a supplemental funding for it, the funding categories. Next in line, I want to call on Senator Sabrina Perez. Senator, go ahead now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing this issue to light. And yeah, I think it's so important that we need to develop some equitable way to divvy up the budget. I think this has been a longstanding issue in regards to the formula. And, I really appreciate Mayor Targalov's suggestion, perhaps if there's a hybrid approach to, having a base budget approved and then perhaps, adding based on population. I know mileage could still be incorporated because, some of these villages are larger, but they have a smaller population. And so there's more mileage to travel. So yeah, I don't know what the solution is at this time, but I'm open to hearing and any suggestions, or at least, I want to support the dialogue between the mayors to find a solution that's equitable. As Mayor Sisuiko mentioned, it may be difficult to find that because, if we're dealing with harder times, ultimately, you need to address the issues in your villages. And if we're coming upon budget shortfalls, how are we going to really address those needs? I do appreciate everybody's testimony here today. And I am listening and, definitely like to support you in getting to a solution, as Mayor Rivera has mentioned. And so no further questions or comments at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator. And next in line, I want to call to one of my favorite senators, Jim Moylan. Sir, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for putting together the meeting with the mayors. It's good to hear the information provided, especially during the upcoming budget. Mayor Ernest, thanks for coming on by the office and helping me understand this as well. It's good we share the information as many senators as we can. And I understand how these mayors how the mayors would need to work this out together. But what I think I can do with the help of the chairman here, Mr. Chairman, obviously we have the 2023 budget already in our hand. And most recently, we see that the governor has submitted over nearly $1 billion budget, and which is an increase of $76 million into the general fund. That's a lot of money, and somehow I think, Mr. Chairman, probably and hopefully with our other senators here, that we can really fight for additional fundings for our mayors as they work through this problem. But when we're increasing the overall general fund budget by $76 million, I'm sure we can find something that we can provide to the mayors as they so put it to us today, that it's really necessary to get to their villages and the people of Guam. And last year, they told us we made over 61 million over our adopted revenue levels. And right now we're tracking over 46 million for this budget period, or for the next budget period as well. So we're doing, according to the governor's office, doing quite well. So why not we give them the monies that they are struggling to get? So I appreciate the time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Looking forward to working this with you on the budget process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator. I see that our good Senator Joanne Brown is back. Joanne, Senator, go ahead now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I had to step out for a bit, but I wanted to come back and join you if the hearing was still ongoing. This has been an ongoing issue. I mean, for many, many years with regards to how the village mayors are funded and how do we address the big and small villages on the island, and is there going to be enough money? And I think certainly by them bringing this up, it's something we will look at when the budget does come forth for this upcoming fiscal year. And how do we address it? How do you address an equitable formulation between our large villages and our small villages, especially if it's going to may add on one end and take away from the other? I mean, we understand that the demands are different depending on the population. And certainly we understand the challenges. I mean, you're dealing with as close to the public as possible in terms of providing services, and there's never going to be enough money. And I'm not of the opinion as a majority of the legislature that, it's just a question, there's more money and let's just burn through it as quickly as we can. Because I am concerned. I'm concerned where we're going to be a year or two from now, especially when the federal money starts slowing down and our economy does not pick up and our tourism doesn't pick up to support all the demands that we have. So I think we need to be a bit more conservative with regards to that, but certainly look, how do we prioritize the most critical services that are provided, directly to our population? Those are the things I would prioritize over other appropriations in the government. So I certainly appreciate the time of the mayors bringing these issues forth. I don't know that we'll ever resolve it to everyone's satisfaction, but I think we just want to have some sense of fairness And hopefully we can get a consensus from the mayors as well on what, because that's going to be more helpful rather than us figuring it out. What recommendation the mayors would have collectively, or majority of them can agree to, on how to equitably divide the budget in one end, and then maybe there's certain key programs that there's an equal share given, and then another option of looking at the population base. So other than that, Mr. Chairman, I don't have any further comments, but certainly look forward when we do address the upcoming budget for this new fiscal year to hear the input of the mayors, and maybe those are some of the key issues they brought up today that we can look at further. With that, thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you very much, Senator. I'm also kind of just thinking about some of the recommendation that is being brought up on this virtual thing. One thing is changing the language and making the amendments, and the other one is maybe combining the three funding source into one, like what the director had mentioned. Maybe we can work out something like that, and maybe at the end we can get Ernest Chagalev to maybe guide us into whatever is right for the Mayor's Council. And Ernie, I'll be getting with you later on after this, and we'll talk about it, and we'll prepare for the 2023 budget to make sure that all these things are rectified. Thank you very much. Lastly, I want to, before I call on to, let me call Ernest. He's got his hand up. Ernest, Mayor Ernest, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Senator. Senator, can you guys hear me? Hello? 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 Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Senator, can you hear me?
You're on.
Senator, when you look at the as far as the distribution of funds, the appropriated funds, every year since I've been the mayor, these appropriated funds since their inception in 2007 and with the programs. In 2007, when the funding was at 1.5 million, then has re-rented 0.28% of the road miles. When you multiply, you take away 380,000, because the standard language is that you take 20,000 to give the engineers shall receive. Okay? So you take 380,000, which is 20,000 times 19 is 380,000. That will give you a balance of 1,120,000. When you multiply the 1,120,000 to the percentage, which is Zenino was being granted that she had road mileage of 189.25, that gave her 0.28%. If you multiply 0.28% times 1.12 million, you would get $322,600 that she received in that fiscal year. In comparison to Humata, who gets 4 something miles, but she only gets 0.060%. So when you multiply that, that fails in comparison. So the parity is vegan because already the size differential is being accommodated. Normally says receiving 323,600. The mayor of Mata is receiving 26,720. So for that fiscal year, and then when the budget went to 9, 10, and steady at from 12 to 18, then it will, and 12 to 18, 14 is showing is 0.28. But for some reason, later on at 2015 or 16, that computation went down based on what came out of the Mayor's Council and the summary and the distribution. So if Dedido is actually 189.25 miles, but she went down to 147.41. So we will be shortchanging her from 2012, from 2016 all the way to 2022 or 21, or even 22 for the matter, because they use that road.
Mayor Chagalev, I'm gonna have to cut you off on this one. We need to get all the mayors with us because you're giving us things that that we need to discuss later on. So I'm pressed with time here. I have another virtual hearing that I have to entertain. So I want to give this opportunity to our speaker to give us just the words of wisdom that we need to take
No,
in
Mr.
regards to the mayor's funding. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Madam Speaker.
Did we get all the mayors, Mr. Chair? If we got all the mayors, no, I only wanted to, there's only.
We got all the mayors already?
Yeah, so I posted on the chat I don't have any words of wisdom, by the way. I'm only saying what I'm observing here, and I'm hoping that, we can resolve at least between, this is for you to resolve amongst yourself, but for our part, I want to resolve, our part. So I posted on the chat the testimony that we received during the budget from, the executive director. It's very clear. He asked for consolidation of 3 accounts. That's all. He didn't ask for a formula or the road formula to be applied to all those 3 accounts. And so the first time we see that formula was in the budget bill as amended, which was only reported out on it was later in the year, so it was about August 10th. So that was after the budget hearing, which took place in June, right? So we had a budget hearing in June on the original bill, an amended budget bill in August 10th, and we passed the budget on August 31st. And you know how we are when we are working on that budget, we're kind of rushing through it by that point. And so we passed it with this new language, and we are now. And now we know the mayor's council, of course, passed a resolution consistent with the law. And so I think there was no bad faith on anyone's part because that was very consistent with the law at that point. And so I totally understand. I think they acted in good faith. But we are seeing now the effects, or the realization of what the actual effects are. And I just believe that there are certain works that have to be done in every village that, of course, are based on the amount of roads you have. You have to maintain those roads. The more you have, the more you might need. There are other programs that are not based on the amount of roads you have. They're based on the people you have, of course, right? So we've heard that also. And I think that there are just some programs that need a minimum, no matter how many people you have or how much roads you have, that to establish programs, sometimes have a minimal threshold just to establish these programs in different areas. We've also seen other sources of funding come into different villages and not necessarily on an equal basis, and that's for different reasons. We see different facilities being put in, different, some villages have senior centers, some don't, that type of thing. Other types of projects and funds come into the villages that are not necessarily equitable. So I understand that also happens. And that's neither based on population nor road. And, maybe sometimes need based, sometimes not, like socioeconomic need. But I do know that when we listed in the statute what the mayors are responsible for, they're responsible for the roads, sports, recreational facilities, restrooms, public safety programs, social education programs, alcohol regulations, enforcing underage drinking, traffic safety, decreasing drug-related violence and abuse in their villages, substance abuse prevention programs. And of course, things that are not listed here, we know abandoned vehicles, the, stray dogs, every other problem that you faced for all these years. So, I guess we, I'm reading a message. All right, so the change in the language from one year to the next, I'm sensitive to that because I feel like the mayors, maybe, that was a very short time frame for them to switch gears and to be cut that much when the budgets to begin with were some of them under $50,000, right? And that's just, I've seen this with the very small agencies as well. You cut 10,000 from a small budget, it makes a humongous impact. So I just don't want to see that happen in these villages. So I am going to work with my colleagues as well to resolve the unintended consequences for this fiscal year and to pay very close attention going forward to the recommendations as to how to more fairly allocate. And there are many recommendations over the years. But no, I believe, you know, the mayor's council acted in good faith and that trying to follow the law. And so I think, you know, it's incumbent upon us. I am glad that the ARP funds came through for you mayors so that as you know, that they can be distributed. And I'm very glad that you voted to distribute them evenly across the villages, and that can help to make up for what the differences were from FY21 to FY22. It probably cannot make up for all the impacts that your villages have faced during COVID, though, you know, and we're gonna just have to continue to work to look at that. And so we ask you at the upcoming budget hearing, at the very minimal, and any other thing that we might do in between, that please let us know your recommendations, or prior to that, your recommendations as to distribution, as you have today, your recommendations as to like minimum budgets that each village requires in order to establish a program, and of course the ARP funds, how those were allocated. And by the way, there was some talk today about you know, we need to hold the mayors accountable. I truly believe every single mayor, just like every other public official, is absolutely accountable for every single dime that they spend. And I'm not in any way advocating anything else. So you mayors are absolutely accountable for the funds that you spend. And if we don't ask you about it today, you know, I still say you are accountable to your villages. You're accountable to the people of Guam for every dime that you spend. And I also, you know, expect that you are all trying to do the best for your villages. And so, Mr. Chair, I'm very glad that you had this hearing today. I know there was a lot of concern, and I want the mayors to be able to work together. And I think that's all of our goal. We need you to work together. You are our front lines. And so we're going to try our best to do our part to resolve any issues that continue to linger. Mr. Chair, and all of you mayors and Mr.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I know that Ernie wanted to speak, but I'm pressed with time right now. I have another scheduled virtual hearing in about another couple of minutes. So Ernie, I'll talk to you later on, sir. Whatever your concern is, bring it to me and I'll bring it to whoever can satisfy your complaint. Thank you very much. At this point in time, we would like to close, and I would like to thank all of you for your participation in today's roundtable hearing for the Mayor's Council of Guam. If you have any written testimony, you can email it to Senator Pedo at senatorjpterlaje.com, or hand deliver it to my office at 777 Route 4 MVP Center Suite 101, Sinahana, Guam 96910. And the time now is currently 3:45, and the Committee on Public Safety, Emergency Response, Military and Veterans Affairs, Mayor's Council of Guam, and Public Transit is now adjourned. Thank you very much. Be safe, everyone. Thank you.